I want to begin with Ramin Jabbarli and with a very general question. What have been the characteristics and key features of discriminatory policies, if there are any, by the different governments in Iran? Because according to general knowledge, almost all ethnic groups, including the Azerbaijanis, suffered a lot during the Shah period. What has changed since the 1979 revolution? And what kind of policies is the current theocratic government in Iran conducting towards ethnic groups, also Azerbaijanis? The floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much, first of all, for organizing this panel. It's a really important topic to discuss here. And if you want to talk about ethnic discriminations in Iran, we need to talk about the origins of these discriminatory policies. And ethnic grievances in Iran generally stem from actually the nation building, the process of nation building in Iran. The process of a nation building in Iran was a kind of exclusive nation building. Mainly, the idea of nationalism in Iran was crafted in 19th century by some Iranian scholars and intellectuals, but its implementation started right after the establishment of Pahlavi dynasty in 1925. Its implementation was, as I said, exclusive, excluding non-Persian ethnic groups from this nation building and trying to assimilating them or Persianizing them through some processes. So one of the policies actually was cultural assimilation of them. For instance, Pahlavi dynasty, the rule of Pahlavi dynasty lasted 54 years. In 54 years, there was no single school in Azerbaijani Turkish inside Iran. And also during this period, only a single book published in Azerbaijani Turkish. It means that the language was banned from official sphere, from schools, courts, and any other public places. So this kind of assimilationist policies implemented in order to build a unified and monolithic nation inside Iran. Of course, even before the establishment of Pahlavi dynasty, there was a decentralized governance inside the country. Even during constitutional revolutions, in constitution there are articles allowing local governance inside Iran. But Pahlavi dynasty, Reza Shah and his son Muhammad Reza Shah, they pursued completely different policies. Assimilatory policies, centralizing economy, centralizing politics inside Iran, and this caused actually problems for ethnic groups. Imposing the cost of this form of nation building on ethnic minorities was the main cost actually for the ethnic groups. As I said, their language, the language of all non-Persian ethnic groups were banned, and Iran is, also remember that Iran is one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world. Iran is indeed a majority minority country. It means that none of the ethnic groups inside Iran constitute more than 50% of the population. And in fact, the only cohesive force that bounding actually various ethnic groups inside the country was not a secular national identity, but Shia religious identity, which is followed by 90% of Iranians. So another factor here was the economic discriminations against ethnic minorities in the country. In Iran, the central parts of Iran is where Persian ethnic group resides. Azerbaijanis is the only ethnic group residing in both peripheral areas and also central parts of Iran. But all other ethnic groups, they generally reside in peripheral areas of the country. It's somehow related to political importance of Azerbaijanis. It's also related to how state discriminated economically against the regions, the periphery, and also ethnic minorities. When we talk about economic development during Pahlavi dynasty, some may argue that there were some economic developments, but that the economic development inside Iran under Pahlavi rule was uneven economic development. It was a discriminatory development. There was no cultural and political development because we cannot define development just economically. And ethnic minorities, of course, were suffering from all these ethnic policies against their regions. The lack of political ethnic representation was another factor because inside Iran, even governors were appointed actually and sent from Tehran to Azerbaijani provinces, mainly from other ethnic groups. What happened after revolution? After revolution, there was a hope that we will see a kind of improvement inside country, but the only thing that has changed was the rhetoric of government, because all these discriminatory policies remained intact inside country, and we saw some other forms of discriminations against some religious minorities, for instance, against Sunnis. And we see a mixture of Shiism and exclusive Persian nationalism inside country. Indeed, Shiism, for most of Persian nationalists, is a Persianized version of Islam. And they use actually Shiism in order to maintain or in order to serve the interest of country. Of course, when they need that, sometimes they ignore Shiism, even in foreign policy, but sometimes they use for the interest of the country. The unfortunate thing after revolution, of course, was that there is no improvement, but all these factors indicate that merely revolution will not improve this problem. We need more than just changing regime or revolution. We need more social revolution along with political revolution. Of course, all ethnic minorities have been protesting against the current regime, and they see no room for any reformation inside country. But even when we see the discourse of centralist opposition in exile, unfortunately, the centralist opposition in exile, those groups are also opposing ethnic rights. And this is one of the main barriers actually for inter-ethnic solidarity and inter-ethnic social movements to somehow force or change the current regime which violates human rights and ethnic rights in the country. I think any change inside country requires recognition of ethnic rights, ethnic minorities, and without recognition, without acknowledging our differences, any form of inter-ethnic social movement, including revolutionary social movement, will not lead to any successful result. Thanks for listening.
I think we have a couple of more minutes. I wanted to ask you specifically about the Mahsa Amini protests, which brought new dynamics into the internal situation in Iran. It started as a hijab protest, but then acquired also ethnic dimension. Could you please give us maybe some specific cases, because you documented all those human rights violations by the government against different ethnic groups, including Azerbaijanis. Unfortunately, you will have 2 or 3 minutes. Maybe you can give us some specific cases.
Okay, how many minutes?
Okay, 3 minutes.
3 minutes. 30 minutes would be enough.
Yeah.
The protest after the death of Mahsa Amini was important protest in terms of ethnic rights. It's mostly known as about the gender aspect of the protest, and of course it was part of protest and demonstration were against the compulsory hijab. But if we pay attention to the slogans were chanted in different areas of Iran, we see that they have different types of demands because of the ethnic issues, because of economic factors, because of gender inequality in Iran. We can talk about different types of grievances. And when they protest together, when there are different types of social movements all protesting at the same moment, then sometimes media tries to cover or somehow make it actually more simple, just saying that this is just for gender inequality, or this is just a feminist movement. Of course, it's an important issue, and all ethnic groups are suffering from discriminatory policies of the state against women. But for instance, in Balochistan, the leader of Baloch is a religious individual. In Tehran, mostly the people are protesting against economic issues and also against compulsory hijab. In Azerbaijan, there were different slogans, such as for justice, freedom, and national governance. The slogan was this actually. And even we see the state repression, we see that the state was repressing disproportionately different regions. For instance, Balochs, they constitute only less than 2% of the population, but more than 25% of those murdered protesters were Baloch. So it's an ethnic group, Sunni ethnic group, residing mainly in southeastern regions of Iran. In the case of Azerbaijanis, we saw the similar situation too. For instance, in just first 2 weeks of protest, just in Tabriz, 1,700 individuals, protesters, were arrested. There were numbers of individuals and protesters killed in different cities of Azerbaijan, and of course, Tehran is one of the cities that Azerbaijanis live. Millions of Azerbaijanis live in the city too, and lots of Azerbaijanis also were arrested and sometimes murdered in the city of Tehran too.
Thank you.